So today was supposed to be a nice clear day and didn't turn out that way. So we're here, we have a special guest out here in sunny California. It's not so sunny. Check this out. Let's head inside. Santa Rosa, California Art Center Studio. And taking a stroll through these halls. Whoops, and there we go, we back up, we go in, and guess who we ran into?
Hey!
Can you tell us your name and where you are from?
My name is Marla Allison. I am from Laguna Pueblo, New Mexico. I just happen to be here in Healdsburg, California. The town of Santa Rosa is where my studio is, and you're here. It just seemed perfectly placed to be here now. Yeah. I'm water cleansed, so it kind of was like, yeah, all right, it's a blessing altogether. A car battery with the AC/DC adapter, and then the plug-in, and like, it was all strapped to a dolly because I knew I had to like haul it around, so it looked like super ghetto. I was like, yeah, whatever, I attached it. I plugged in my painting, Mass Market of 2020, which was incredible. We had a whole 10 people show up. And to be like these modern natives, like living in beautiful California or wherever people are living. But I mean, for me to be here, I'm like, whoo, that's a great history that I got to follow.
So can you tell us about the ribbons here?
Sure. My latest ribbon I just got was the honorable mention at the Heard Museum this March for a painting set I did with some abstracts. And just before that was the first place in the painting category at the Santa Fe Indian Market. And that was for a painting called The Heartbeat of the People, which was pretty huge because the painting actually was done kind of like with a photograph done by Lee Marmon, who's my mentor, great friend. Sadly, he passed away earlier in the year. And so to pay homage to him, I did a photograph of his painting. I was given specific permission from him to exclusively be able to paint his photographs. So I try to bring it into the contemporary light, just like this painting here that is his babysitter, Cecilia. And I use the image, but then I completely change it to be something more and bring it into kind of like the contemporary modern art kind of look, but also still say thanks and all the work that he's done, but also letting me bring in the ideas and the understanding of the importance of sharing your own people, which is Laguna people. And all these people that he photographs are Laguna Pueblo, so I try to do the same. I'm also Hopi Pueblo, so I paint images of some Hopi women as well, just to, rep your tribe, right?
Yep, exactly. And I think that's where I first recognized your work is about 11 years ago at Santa Fe Indian Market, that I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. And I was there to check out another artist, Ryan Singer, and that's when I came across your booth, and you had Princess Leia. But this one looks way different from the one you had. Did you try out did you experiment a lot with colors, or, because I know the other one was kind of the squares that were utilized in that.
I've used a lot of different styles, and I still will throughout my lifetime, I hope. Yeah. I use the influence of Gustav Klimt's style with paintings, and then this kind of background style I saw in Bahrain when I was out traveling, seeing friends, and then brought it back to connect with the pottery design that I was using, and then the broken fractal kind of loose brushstrokes here. But the black and white one, that's really like side by side. You can see the similar style, only one's a little loose and one's a little more tight with exactness.
Yeah.
And so it's all just practicing disciplines and letting go of those disciplines to practice my own hand at just being an artist and challenging myself at what I can and can't do. And then to throw that out and to start again and again. Just kind of refreshing styles in a way, refreshing my brain, refreshing whatever I think I'm doing and what I think is important, and then to show another light on how to share that importance. And that kind of brings me to like this newer style that I've been doing with the abstracts. This is what one honorable mention, the judges had no idea, at least as far as I know. I heard one person say they didn't even know it was my work, which I thought, yes, I fooled him again. Not like I fooled him, but you know, it challenges them. Yeah, it challenges them to see like, wow, artists can and should change. I think a lot of collectors need to know that, and it shouldn't be stagnant. It should be encouraged and it should be strengthened. But the challenge of artists is like, oh, this is a big step. This is something I've never done. And it freaks me out every time. But then I think, well, it's what I do. I know I can do it. And I do this. But I also subtly, I bring back, in the background, there's a real slight pottery design.
Oh, yeah. There you go. I think I see that shade there, right around here.
Yes.
It's funny because I was just explaining to my friend, we stopped by in the morning to visit her before we headed towards you. And I was trying to explain to her what your artwork looked like, but you have a lot of variation, but there's something that kind of ties them all together and makes them recognizably yours for the most part. I had told her, I said, some of it looks like it's inspired by Gustav Klimt, but I said, but then there's something different about it that makes it very much hers. And I was like, I can't put my finger on it. I was like, you're just going to have to check it out.
That's really awesome. I like that description. I'd rather be, I think I'd rather be left in a category of unknowns rather than, oh, I can specifically tell this and that is yours directly, because I like to know that I can change and that, you know, it's constantly morphing and organic in its own way to become something more and more.
Well, because you can't really just, art is a form you can't harness. You can't enclose it and keep it shut in. It's allowed to be free form, go every which dimensional way, and find new ways of finding patterns. You go from, you know, and this is kind of the style I recognize your work in, is the squares and the colors. But then this is a different style over here, except you still have your pottery designs. But then this one here is just as amazing and good, especially with your designs. But I'm a big Nine Inch Nails fan, so it kind of reminds me like a Nine Inch Nails album cover as well too. I'm like, oh, that looks amazing.
I'm a big fan of their work as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one. I think it was called the one with all the album with a lot of soundscapes. I forgot which that one was called. It came out like in 2000,
Like
2001.
Downward Spirals or something?
No, it was after that one.
Oh, I don't know. I probably have it on like CD somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I was just literally looking at that CD the other day. You know, and that's what it reminds you of. But it's the colors, the combination. You have your deep reds.
Yes.
On here. And on here, and on here, we have your like in rich turquoise colors that's kind of melted in there. That really is prominent and pops right there.
Yeah, that was the first piece, the first canvas that I broke into, just setting everything up. I just settled finally. The dust was still in the air. Yeah. The easels were just freshly brought in here. Mm-hmm. And I had some clients coming by to talk over a commission. And I was like, oh, I can't just be in a studio for weeks and just have boxes that have moved back and forth to show as progress. So I put out a canvas and just broke out any color and just started painting. And this was kind of like a mix of like a couple of reds and a couple of like a little bit of ochre that I just kind of put on the background just to be like, okay, I have something. Yeah. They came in, we talked over some projects, and then we had dinner, and then I came back and it was like, okay, that's a good start. Yeah. It was something fresh. And then once I really sat with the canvas, with the piece, I thought, oh, it has something more. What else can I do to this? And yeah, the gold leafing made sense. The blue in the background, which was kind of a like landscape idea, but then I didn't want it to be a landscape, although it, like naturally it makes sense with those colors. And then I thought, okay, it looks great. Now what? How do I make it mine? And I was talking to my boyfriend, Alex, saying, I have no idea what to do. I don't know what further step to take to let this be mine. And he said, why don't you do squares? And I thought, I'll do some pottery. That makes sense. And then we're both like, yeah, we'll do it real subtle. Yeah, just do it like real lightly. Oh yeah, you should fade it into the background. I thought, oh my God, this is great. This is wonderful.
And now I can see like the hint of squares in the gold.
Oh, that's with the leafing, which already has that natural connection to doing so. So it is, continuing only with its own natural material. Unintentionally, I guess.
Do you feel like being in a new space also kind of open the doors to trying new things?
Yes, very much. I've been living here in California for a year and a few months. So for the whole year before moving here, before moving into this studio space, I was going to the beach. I was doing some plein air, like that piece that's on the easel there. Yeah. That's just kind of like a seascape that just kind of kept dripping, and I embraced it. And I've done a few others. And as time continued, I just kind of liked how that mood came about. And with the rains, with all the water now around me, with the green, with the forests and everything, it's a whole different landscape than New Mexico. So it's very influential on a big change in not only territory, but also in influence and even living space. I mean, my skin is more, moisturized rather than in the desert. Everything's different.
Well, that's what my wife. Every time we enter back into California, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna revitalize my skin."
I know.
It's coming back.
Yeah, it's like it gets like dried up a little bit when you're away. Not really, but
Yeah. So I'm wondering. So is the drip thing that you are now experimenting with? Just because the environment you're in, because there's a lot more moisture, there's a lot of water nearby. Is it because how you kind of literally, we're looking out, we're seeing a big storm happening that's kind of record-breaking. Yeah. And if you look at it, you have the drizzles going by. Either you can look at it like a matrix of code going by, or you look at it as artwork.
I think it's all that.
Yeah, it's art. It's art. There you go.
It's art. It's the matrix. It's giving in.
It's interpretations.
All these are influencers, and I think embracing the native part of life. So I was thinking whenever I was moving here, I was unloading all these old paintings. One I've had in the works for over 15 years. And sadly, the intention was to give it to my grandmother, but she passed away in October. So I finally opened it up again, and I took it home, and I told Alex, check this out, man. This is now the house of water. It's raining. It's crazy amazing. There were floods intensely huge, and it just seemed perfectly placed to be here now. I'm water cleansed, so it kind of was yeah, all right, it's a blessing altogether.
So I'm glad what are your clans anyway?
I'm big water and little turquoise.
Okay.
Water from Hopi and turquoise from the Jemez side of my family. So I am half native. I'm a quarter Hopi, an eighth Laguna, and an eighth Jemez, raised in Laguna. And yeah, my Anglo family comes from Florida, so there's a whole nother water connection right there.
Gotcha. You have a lot of water going on. Well, I'm also water edge, bitter water, and red running to water clan. Nice. With Town House people.
All right, brother. Cool. Makes sense now.
Yeah, I know exactly. I'm like, yeah, it looks amazing. That is great. So can you talk a little about this one you're working on here?
These ones are kind of this movement towards the future. I was talking with a friend, and with these metallics that I've been including with the Gustav Klimt style paintings, and now in these really fun abstracts, they're becoming almost like my golden era. I like to think. It sounds really cool. I probably won't stick with it, but for now, it sounds like the golden era of the Marla Allison life.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And letting that kind of intermesh with a kind of new way of viewing my work, but also myself viewing my work, it allows me to embrace this whole modern newness of living in this new space. But this allows for the canvases to go bigger and more grand, but also still have that constant underlayer of my heritage, the history of Laguna, and to use the pottery designs over and over, back and forth. It's just like, the first one was called Layers of Reality, this one.
Okay.
So it's the reality of life and of history that's always and ever present in my paintings, I like to think. Being a Pueblo woman, a painter, it's just inherited in bloodline. And by being an artist, I'm allowed to continue that path and to share the great history of what came before me from all the artisans of the past that let the history continue on, starting with the train routes where artwork was the first feeding out of artwork. Pottery was the first thing to step out of the Pueblo as far as representation of Laguna people. And so now I'm still allowed to be an artist in these days. And so to pay homage to that, to bring it all together, it just kind of for me, it makes sense to include that. And I feel that I'm lucky to be allowed to include that in this series of painting style.
That's cool. That's a lot of history into your paintings, which is, I think what makes artwork the most important is that there's history brought into it. It's laced into it. It's interpretations that's ingrained in it, and you explain all that brings a lot more meaning to, like, I'm just experimenting with my colors, and I like how the drizzles look. You know, especially the train part. People don't know how significant trains are, even up to right now, this very second. And it's cool that you actually bring that in, because we've watched, you know, what's happening on the news with trains, but also when we were driving up here, going through, what was that area?
in Southern California.
We were right outside Bakersfield. So you're going through the mountains, but you see the trains, and I was telling Amber, I said, it's crazy to be a train engineer, because you're thinking about the past, you go through the landscape at a certain, degree of how much you allow a machine to haul materials through. And I said, it takes a lot of thought to think through all that. But now, as an artist, that's a different thought of looking about it, of how you're putting things together and looking at the, now I'm just making the long stories longer, but it's interesting that you put all that thought into your paintings from those multiple different angles, and especially your background that plays into it as well, too.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, we can't just take for granted that right now, right here, it was all meant to be. It's not. It was a path that was tried, and a lot of tears, a lot of blood was shed for us to be in this space, this moment, and to embrace what we have as a now, and to be like these modern natives, like living in beautiful California or wherever people are living. But I mean, for me to be here, I'm like, woo, that's a great history that I got to follow, and to be now here in this beautiful place, to be having this leisure job of making a painting that is unnecessary, truly. It's not like even toilet paper is necessary, but electricity, like medicine, like mental health, all those things that are important, that should be the first focus of anybody's, income. That's where, like things should be paid for. But after that, it's like, wow, there's enough people that are willing to actually accept a painting into their home, but also to let me be that painter in their home. So it means that, you know, I'm doing something right with whatever my paintings are meaning to me and then to meaning to others, that I'm keying into some place that just makes sense to them and to myself. And so it lets me be a part of like this history that's current and right now, and then will continue on, I hope, for many moons. But to be able to do this is like, whoa, thanks Grandma, thanks, you know, ancestors, all our great grandparents, you know, all those that, like my great grandfather, he was a painter, and like my grandfather, his son, like highly encouraged me throughout art school, my parents as well. I can't think of enough, like that allowed me to do so many things, and then to, you know, just do this for, gosh, 16 years now, solid. 16 years, that's lucky, man. Like wherever wood is, like let's knock on it, you know, because I mean that's a fortunate occurrence, and yeah, I know not many people are allowed that. So,
well, I think, and this is a running theme I'm starting to continue from hearing from another successful Native woman, is that your ancestors, your grandma, your past generations survived so you can thrive. And I think that's what all of us who push beyond the boundaries of what we can get out of life and make a living out of it, we're stepping on the foundation that our ancestors and everybody built for us to make sure we are right here. Yeah. Not to be below them. You know, they worked hard, and they survived the worst of the worst. So you and I can talk here, a beautiful little studio in a beautiful town in California. We have clean clothes, you have new shoes, you know, technology. We're telling our stories, like, yeah.
that's true.
It's good. That's why you and I are meeting. We're celebrating their accomplishments so they can help you accomplish more by what they taught you and what they passed down.
That's cool. Aren't we lucky?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's that. I understand the poor me stuff about natives. I just got tired of hearing it because we're not down there anymore. You can go to a reservation, and then you can go to some small town. There's similarities, if not the reservation's better. You can go to a studio and see artwork, or you can go to Laguna Pueblo, or someplace out in Arizona that's on Hopi or Navajo land, or even all the way up to Montana. You'll see an artist doing amazing things. And that artwork is thriving because of what we inherited from our past generation. And also now we're seeing different things to influence us to add on to it as we climb up as artists, as creators. And I think it kind of goes back to that whole saying, for what you were saying about, like, we have all these necessities to deal with, then they add meaning to their household on top of that. But I feel like that's where that whole saying comes, earth without art is eh. And I feel like art is just as important as anything else. How else can you mentally stay healthy? How else can you see someone put their brain inner workings onto a canvas, into a metal shop, into, I don't know, glass, you know, other glass blowers, or even like weavers, you know, it's all that takes a lot.
Yeah, even music. I mean,
music.
Yeah, music is a luxury.
Yeah, music is a luxury.
Yeah, I was watching some of your past videos, seeing the punk rock singer and then the metalhead and then Brian, seeing all their music displayed, and I'm thinking, oh man, all my vinyl is back at my house. I don't even have a record player here to like show off all my collection too. I was like, damn, you know, but it's appreciated to know that their love of music is a high influencer on their lifestyle of their artwork, and it's appreciated further than what they think is a small town window. I mean, that window can like be prismatic and like shine out to the rest of the world in such a incredible way that you can't tell when you're in a small town, but once you get out of that small town, oh my gosh, your ears hear so much more.
Yeah.
And your eyes are open bigger. Yeah. Like there's there's the filter is off after a while, and you realize how small you are in the big picture, but then you realize how special you are as well. And sometimes it's a delicate balance, but yeah, to see those videos of other artists and people that have been interviewed ahead of time, wow, it was really inspiring.
This is why we're doing it. This is why we're highlighting the subculture of our tribes, and also the importance of what we're doing that's also modern but still holding on to traditional values as well. Which is why I'm glad you really like those too, because it's a subculture nobody knew about, and it's like, we're big. Like, we brought Danzig, we brought, you know.
No, I've been to plenty of those shows. I mean, I wanted to be a part of those shows. I was in this band whenever I got out of art school. My cousin, his name is Pat Cairo, was like this talented guitar player. I'm like air guitaring, like I know what I'm doing. But he was really good. I was working for this elderly center, because when you get out of art school, you don't know what you're going to do. There's no open door saying, oh yeah, just be a great artist. Yeah, we'll buy your stuff, whatever it is. Nobody does that. You have to find a path, work towards it, and it's not A to B. It's like A to what the hell, and then, you know, but in the meantime, I was working at this elderly center. I had this old 75 Ford pickup that went through a couple engines in between, total fixer-upper, and my cousin needed a ride to his band practice. I was like, wow, that's cool. I'll take you. And he's like, oh yeah, let me just throw my guitar in the back. I'm like, yeah, that's so cool, you know, and he started it. Can I just strum it a little? But I would take him, and then all these guys, like, they had their hair all dressed in black. I'm like, yeah, they're badass. That's so cool. And then I was driving him home one night after practice, and he was like, so we kind of need like a chick singer, like for sex appeal, right? You know, because like we're just a bunch of ugly dudes. Like, can you sing? I'm like, no, probably not. I'm not. No, I've never sang in public since I was like 10. You know, in Catholic school, like I don't do that. And then he was like, come on, just try it. I'm like, okay. And so it took like 5 songs for him to finally get my voice out, because, you know, all those like monsters inside are saying, no, don't do it. No, you can't do that. And finally it came out, right? And I started, he played this Megadeth song that I knew.
Nice.
And so I'm like singing it, like, I think it was Holy Wars. And he's like, hey, all right, that's your vocal strength. That's a good one. I was like, yeah, I know I can sing that tone. I've practiced by myself.
The car, just
in the shower. Yeah. So we started practicing. I found more courage. And then, we started doing like Megadeth songs, just covers. Like Kitty, System of a Down, whatever. And so, we started doing shows with his band. I would do like 2 songs maybe. But I had the cool truck that could bring the generators, so we could like play anywhere. We could play at a feast day. One time we played on top of a hill where like all the cars were like lined up and like on us. That was the cool.
That was like a gathering right there. Yeah.
It was like at the end of Laguna Feast, which is like a huge feast. And so I was thinking like, oh man, those guys are so punk rock. Like, I was just a wannabe, but like I tried. So at that time it was something. I think we only did like 3 or 4 shows, but it was fun. And then eventually, like, they stopped calling me to show up to practice, and I'm like, yeah, I got stuff to do anyway. Whatever.
I want to be a painter, whatever.
I want to be a painter or something.
It's easy as A to Z. I got this.
But it was, it was a fun experiment. It's cool to be a part of the scene. And the thrill of being up on stage where, like, there are kids that are just, like, thrashing, and like they don't care what the hell you're singing. I think I was singing Pogo by System of a Down, and I'm up there like pogo, 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 like just screaming this. And then like people are just like going crazy. I'm like, I am holding the mic. Like, that was the coolest feeling.
I control all of you.
You can't get that with any other job, like being a painter, being a something else. Like, when you're that person on stage with the whole band and the heartbeat behind you and guitars, there's nothing like it, man. It's so thrilling. It
brings out something else.
It brings
out something else.
Yeah.
That's cool. You brought the generator Because
My dad has a contracting company or a construction company, so tools were always part of the life, and finding electricity in the middle of nowhere was easy.
well, it's funny because in Tuba City they also had shows in the boonies with a generator
Oh yeah.
and a big old large army tent. We only played one, but they had like big bands like Total Chaos come through and play those shows.
Sweet.
Right? I was like, that's crazy. That's cool. You guys did it too.
Diversity. That's what won me my for my first Santa Fe Indian Market, 2008. I entered this piece, this painting of my mother, which was a painting of her. I might have a picture of it. It had it was on Masonite. It had a cutout with a DVD player installed, and then the video actually had her life story that she narrated. And my cousin and I did the whole video part of it with family photos, with, her whole story, like 8 minutes long. And when I went to enter it, it required a plug. And I said, hey, I brought this, and I came to enter it for my entry piece. And they said, well, just set it aside. I was like, well, it needs a plug. I brought an extension cord. They're like, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, I kind of that's part of the piece. It's a whole thing. And I was all proud. And they're like, no, we can't take that unless it has its own power. I was like, I figured that out. I knew I'd be showing it at my booth. So let me go get the stuff. They're like, oh God, they rolled their eyes at me. They're like, what a loser. And I'm just like, with my cart, I come back and I have a car battery with the AC/DC adapter. And then the plug-in, and it was all strapped to a dolly because I knew I had to haul it around, so it looked like super ghetto. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, whatever. So I attached it. I plugged in my painting, and then they're like, oh, hey, cool. And I was just like, oh man, they probably think it's junk, like a lamp. It's just an accessory that you plug into a wall. I'm thinking that's lame, whatever. And then I get this call. I'm in the middle of looking like street clothes, kind of smelling funny. And I get this call and they're like, hey, can you come in at I don't know, some early o'clock? And I was like, okay, whatever. That's weird.
Did I forget my battery?
I know, I thought I was in trouble or something. Yeah. So I show up and they're like, oh, you need to be video ready. I'm like, oh my God. I look like crap. And, I'm in these cut-off shorts, looking just horrible. So I called my friend. I'm like, dude, I need to borrow your car. He's like, do you know how to drive my car? I'm like, I'll figure it out. Give me your keys. And so I just hauled ass, got all prettied up, came back 20 minutes late. I'm like, all right, ready, let's go. And I got the inaugural Innovation Award of the Santa Fe Indian Market for that painting. What? The painting was on display on the big stage with Best of Show, Sheldon Harvey, and I don't know, probably Cara Romero. All these badasses are up there, and this little painting of my mother was this big. It wasn't very big. Yeah. Had a dolly in front of it with a battery and the AC/DC adapter plugged in. You could see the wrap. Everything was displayed. I'm like, they couldn't just put a black cover on it, come on. But they're like, that's the beauty of it. It showed that, and it was it showed the whole significance of I don't know, native ingenuity, right? Yeah, you just figure it out. It's okay. There are things that make it work.
Yeah, you made it work.
Yeah, so score.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that piece, that ribbon got lost.
Oh, gotcha.
Along the way.
Do you have any pictures of that, or
of the painting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. These are self-published little booklets that I did.
And do you have these books for sale too?
I can make them. So I did my mother, and then a year after I did my father. And so it definitely shows my mixed heritage.
She's tools.
Yeah, my mom doing her cross-stitching.
Gotcha.
And I think there's a YouTube video that actually has her story.
Oh, okay.
And my dad with his Allison construction shirt that I designed.
Nice.
He's a Florida Jaguars fan, always working on tools.
So did your parents meet out here, or they're out in Florida?
They met out in Florida.
Oh, okay. How did that happen?
I don't know if my mom wants me to tell. My mom
Was it a Megadeth show or was it not? Okay.
well, my mom was, she was out hitchhiking and she went AWOL from the Army. My dad was driving from Bunnell, visiting his mom, driving to Orlando to visit his dad, who he lived with and did construction work. And they met along the way and fell in love. And 2 years later, she had my oldest brother, Amos. Mm-hmm. They got married. Yeah. Then they had my brother, Amos, and then my sister, Raven. And then a couple of years later, they moved back to the res, and life continued. My brother, Ira, came, and then myself, and then my younger brother, Jake. And we all were raised in Laguna.
So you have 4 siblings?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're the youngest?
Second
youngest? Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about fate, right?
Those two have like a really romantic, cool story, and I think that it's inspiring of who they are. This is old paintings. This is like my first stuff that I was doing. I took to the Heard Museum and kind of hugely influenced by Picasso kind of style. In comparison now, the complete different
Like
painting style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have this painting too, which is pretty amazing. This became a book cover for a friend's poetry book, my friend Joseph Delgado. This painting is one of my paintings as well, and I'm going to Budapest this summer to do a conference with the writer, and then the Wednesday after, I'm curating an exhibition at the Museum of Ethnography in Budapest, where, it's going to be my first curatorial kind of job, where I'm going to have like images shown through a projector kind of scenario. That's what the museum can offer. So I got like 8 of us. Let's see, Mateo Romero, Diego, Kara Romero, Autumn Bortz Medlock, Tammy Garcia, Will Wilson, and Roxanne Swensel, and myself, all in the show that I'm just like, oh, these guys are rock stars. They want to be in my show. Oh my gosh, this is great. And so all thanks to my friend Judith, who did this book, I get to be a part of this huge Native American literature conference in Budapest, of all places, and then do a show where these amazing people are letting me curate their work, and all like so far from home.
So how were you able to secure that? Is it just because you just have a wealth of work and you're doing your pieces all over, or?
They see my work. I've known Judith for a number of years. She was writing a book and she really loved it, and she asked if she could use the copyright image for the cover of her book. Yeah. Thanks to making books like this, I'm able to, people see it and they're like, oh, I love that. I'd love to use that as a cover, or I'd love to make that into a concert flyer or something like that. And so being the painter, I have the rights of copyright. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. Let's figure it out. So things just kind of happen, and then like people find deeper meanings into the work that I do. So it like lets the story continue further than just a contemporary gallery. This is the painting that won the first place in the Santa Fe Indian Market, the 100th Santa Fe Indian Market.
100th, wow.
Yeah. This is another painting that, it's a self-portrait.
Yeah, this was my favorite before Amber's was.
She's like, you what? What'd you say? Yeah, my buddy Pope, he had like a crossbow, and I told him, hey, I want to paint an archer. He's like, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. So I'd been like, really working out. I was actually planning to do a modeling shoot with a buddy of mine who builds surfboards out in the desert. And so I've been like really physically preparing to like be like this Pueblo badass holding a surfboard in like the desert landscape waiting for the ocean to return. It's like a whole thing that he's doing.
That's cool.
But I haven't done it yet. So until then, I'm like, okay, I'll just keep working out. I'll just keep building, be ready. So it allows me to like, oh yeah, look, I look pretty cool with a bow. Okay, I'll use that. Like, I'll figure it out. It's kind of cool. I've never seen this door open yet.
What happened during COVID? Did it affect you any way on your art?
During COVID, I was pretty much shut in. It forced me to start a whole new series called Lost Inside. And I did these abstract paintings that had kind of windows, and then on the background, I actually scribbled a whole bunch of drawings. So it felt like I was in a prison scribbling on the wall. You know how people mark the many days that they've been inside?
Gotcha.
I wanted it to signify that kind of a feeling because I know everybody was feeling that same thing. And I thought, how do I hone in to this human, desolate, hidden away place that everybody else is feeling too? So yeah, I kind of just went into that space and then did a set of 4 paintings that had this writing on the wall, and it was really actually love poems and kind of heartache and the struggle of what it's like to be shut in, written on the background of a painting. Those paintings are, I think I have one of them left in my house in Healdsburg. But yeah, they really signified a big moment of life. And thankfully, during that time, the Santa Fe Indian Market was shut down. This would have been their 100th year, which I was sadly, I was really bummed that I couldn't be a part of it. But talking with Cody Sanderson, we both kind of asked each other, well, he asked me, hey, why don't we do this show? And I said, all right, where are we going to do it? And he said, oh, let's do La Fonda. You know some people there. So I was like, yeah, sure, all right. So I called up my people. They made it happen. We started figuring out what other artists would bring a draw. They're big, they're comfortable personalities because you don't want somebody that's like kind of annoying to be at this art show where you have to be stuck in this place and with a mask and everything. They had to work with those circumstances, and we had to work together for that too. So yeah, we picked all these super cool people. Santa Fe is full of cool people. And then we did the Mask Market of 2020, which was incredible. We had a whole 10 people show up. I wish we could say we sold out, but those paintings that had the writing on them, those all were able to be debuted at that show. It was pretty significant for me to show the fact that even though I'm stuck inside, I was still able to do some paintings that signify this moment in time from a full-on human scope of what the struggles of being stuck inside are like. It was really cool. We could all just be in each other's presence. Oh, and Autumn Bortz Medlock brought her work as well, which all these people were incredibly they are incredibly talented. And the fact that we could all do this pop-up show during COVID time, wearing masks and being in public when nothing else was open. No galleries were open, no restaurants, no anything. And there were still tourists coming in from various places. I don't think it was significant, but it was enough to bring the 10 people around to the show.
They're all international.
Nice. It was fun.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah. So have you guys done any more mass market type themes like outside of Santa Fe Indian Market or?
No, that's a good thing I need to bring up to Cody, because perhaps we could, so I have this show coming up in Budapest, but he has shows coming up in Japan. Maybe if we could meet in the middle and do something, I don't know, Australia or something cool. that would be really fun for the future, and to let let the people know, like, hey, natives are coming out. We don't have to be just in the Southwest. I mean, there are so many that are kind of starting to find ways and understandings on bringing other natives with them to these significant places. Lyndon Sosi goes out to Japan quite often. Geraldine Begay, they're all incredible jewelers, but how do we get painters there? And so that's my try on going to Budapest and doing this exhibition that's this summer. But also, like, there are many more countries that are willing and able to take us. We just need to figure out that path. I know a great friend in Greece that wants to do a show, some people in Finland, some people in Zimbabwe, but that's more like an artist residency. But there are paths, and Abu Dhabi especially, I've gone there a couple times now, and the gentleman is thankfully still willing to throw me an exhibition when I go there. So hopefully I can bring more people with me and start to do bigger shows. But this first show this summer is like my first curation of anything. So I hope, other than the mass market, that wasn't really a curation though.
Yeah.
So I hope that it opens those international gates and lets people join me along the way. I mean, that's one way I can think of giving back to the people that I come from, right? Like, how do we make this more? How do we bridge that gap and let the artwork be seen and heard further than just the little Southwest niche that we have? So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
It'll be fruitful.
So are you the first of your village to go out this far as an artist?
Oh, I'm sure no. My mentor, Lee Marmon, was, he would go to the Czech Republic and did an exhibition out there. He went to London and told me he couldn't understand a word of English that anybody said. He's so old school. Yeah. I couldn't understand what that guy was saying. I'm like, you were in London, man. They're speaking English. But that's just the times, I mean, I'm sure the accents were more thick then. So Lee Marmon has gone out quite often. Brian Vio, he's done a lot of work internationally. Let's see, the main one, Deborah Holland. I mean, she's gone far beyond what Laguna people could ever expect, and hopefully, she can help. Maybe she'll be like, hey, well, let's go do this show together. That would be fun.
Let's do a show in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, it'd be pretty.
No, hey.
It's really not that far flung though.
No,
it's crazy. Like, what you and I are around the same age, so just to think, this is what our generation is doing, and one previous generation did almost something exactly. We're not that far away. Like, it's really not. It's not such a far-fetched idea anymore. It's more of like, let's do this most soon. Like, let's count down the days. Yeah. Now more like, that's the moon. I'm not gonna get over there. It's cool. So, how many different countries have you been to since you started? You said 16 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Can I help you make it smaller?
Well, like, visited for fun is like up there in like 10 or 11 countries, thankfully. Hopefully it continues. The start of it was, I got an artist residency out in Abu Dhabi, where I was one of 5 Native American artists doing an artist residency representing natives from the Southwest, out in the middle of the desert on the other side of the world, right? Yeah. And I did paintings that reflected Pueblo life mixed with Arabic life. And really, once you look at the same together, they're very similar. I mean, they have desert outfits where it's a long shawl on top, long cover ceramics that have been handed down through years and generations of the same type of clay, almost similar form. Theirs are a little longer, but ours are a little more stout, which are kind of significant of our people too, isn't it? But design work, they have the same, they have different designs, but they still have design work on their pottery as well. So it continues throughout their life. And I thought, man, you stand them side by side, you know, take out the color. It's almost the exact same silhouette.
Yep.
You know, a woman carrying water for her people, or you know, carrying ceramics. So, and that's a significant part of our history, captured by the photography of Edward S. Curtis, that kind of made, you know, the woman carrying a pot of water so significant. He captured the moments of like what women did back in the day, and I think that's iconic to keep continuous. And so when I go to the desert, I try and take, you know, my host like a pottery that, I don't do ceramics, but a ceramic that somebody that I know made, and then give it as an offering after pouring some water, like, hey, this is what the water clan does, you know, like, let's share water, you know. I mean, it's a gift that is human, and a stronger meaning than just you know, piece of chocolate or something.
Yeah.
I think it's yeah, one of those great gifts. I go straight to the source and go back and rejuvenate in Laguna. Yeah, so this is the birthplace of Snoopy and Peanuts. There's this huge building that has like a spider. This artist is known for bigger than life spiders. It's like a building. Now I can see the connection further, like how do I make artwork grand size, big and huge? My style that I've started, the Pueblo influence, the pottery or whatever, and still let that be something even more bigger.